Welcome to FutureX, the podcast where we look to solve the variable that is the future of Web3. Every week, we'll talk with some of the brightest minds in the blockchain and Web3 space, from top investors to founders and builders, paving the way for a decentralized world. So what is the future of blockchain? What will Web3 look like in 2050? Let's explore together.
Hi all, welcome to FutureX, SynFutures podcast series highlighting some of the brightest minds in Web3. I'm Rachel from SynFutures, your host today. So today we are very honored to have our guest here, Eleni, co-founder and CEO of Loop Crypto. Hi, Eleni. Nice to meet you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us. First of all, would you mind, introduce yourself and your project a bit for our audience?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I'm Eleni. I'm one of the co-founders of Loop. We started building Loop, which is solving essentially auto pay in crypto. So one of the biggest problems is you can, of course, send transactions quite easily in crypto, but if you want to schedule transactions or pull from someone's wallet, it's actually technically pretty difficult. And so we built a bunch of tooling. The easiest thing is to think of Stripe, but for Web3, to help companies solve this problem.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, let's talk about how do you first get into the crypto space?
Yeah, so about 7 years ago, I was in business school at Yale, and I knew I wanted to work in fintech. And so when I was researching the fintech space and different trends, I stumbled upon the Bitcoin white paper, and I fell down the proverbial rabbit hole and knew that this technology was definitely right to disrupt the way that we were storing data. So both on the privacy side, but as well as how we were doing payments, which is of course where I ended up today.
We know that you firstly work as the head of strategy and operations for another project at first. And what drove you to become the founder yourself to start this project?
Yeah, so I have two things. One, my co-founder Shane and I worked at the same prior crypto company, and him and I thought the opportunity to build and launch a side project while we were there. And we really enjoyed working together, and it was a great test to see that we could actually do this, that we knew how to build and execute and even fundraise for that project. And so I think that experience definitely helped us take the leap together. But even before that, starting a company has something that's always been on my mind and a life goal of mine. And the stars sort of aligned that I met Shane. I built this expertise in the crypto industry, and then we had this idea that we were pretty bullish on.
Sure. And how about your company's products? And can you tell us a little bit more about the products? What are the major use case? Yeah.
Yeah. So at its core, really what Loop is it's a payment processor. So we help companies, like I said, schedule and facilitate payments. And so there's a couple of ways we do that. It's probably easiest to go by use case. So one of the largest use cases is we help companies accept subscription payments. So we give them a smart contract, and then everything is APIs, and then we have some front end tools. So just like Stripe, we have a checkout page. You can send this link to your customer, or you can embed it on a button that says Pay with Crypto. Someone is able to log in with their wallet and give that contract authorization. And then companies can schedule payments. So basically, if it's a monthly subscription, then they can schedule those monthly payments with us. We actually also have an integration with Stripe. So if you're using Stripe or Chargebee already to collect fiat, you can just give us your API key and easily integrate with our system and not have to do anything else. You can use Stripe to create your subscriptions, manage your customers, and we just pull in the invoices and bill them on the chain. So that's one big vertical. The other biggest use case is scheduling outbound payments. So a good example of this is a company or a DAO that maybe is paying employees or is paying out grants, and they know that they're going to have to do it every month. Most likely they're using a multi-sig, and it's just annoying to get 5 of 8 people to sign a transaction multiple times, because for every person that you're paying every single period. And so again, with us, you can take that multi-sig, give permission to our smart contract to allow it to then process future payments. And so you give the permission, and then you can use our front end to just schedule all those payments in more of a Web 2 style, which again should save you a bunch of time and make it easier to have payments going into the future without you having to take a bunch of action.
Definitely. I mean, like for your partnership with Stripe, that's a huge steps in the crypto payment as well. I mean, like from the user experience side, the integration is for the merchant, right? So does it mean that anyone integrate with Stripe as a merchant will be able to provide crypto payment services via your API, or what is the user experience look like? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So on the company side, if you're already using Stripe, you can integrate with us literally by just creating an API key, providing that to us, and then our system is able to talk to Stripe system and pull in any of those payment inputs. For the end customer, the one who's purchasing the subscription, what they'll end up seeing, instead of seeing a Stripe checkout page where you provide your credit card, you see a Loop checkout page where you can connect your MetaMask or you can connect your Gnosis Safe wallet. You can select what token you want to pay for, and then you provide an authorization. So just like with a credit card, where you click, like, I allow this company to charge my credit card, you'll click a button that basically says, I'll allow this company to charge my wallet. But the Web3 benefit here to the end user is that you actually get to tell the company how much they can charge you. So if you're using a credit card, it's an unlimited spend, right? Once they have your credit card, they can charge you whatever they want. But in Web3, because you control your own assets, when you click that button that says, yes, allow this company to charge me, you can put what's called like a spending cap. And you basically are limiting the amount that company can ever charge you. And that cap is always editable. So we have something we call our customer portal. You can always go to Loop's portal, log in with your wallet, and you can increase and decrease that cap as much as you want, as well as you can cancel your subscription. So in the Web3 world, the user actually has much more control about payment.
Sure. I assume that there's lots of work that you have to do. I mean, on back of that, say, for example, Stripe must ask for fiat instead of crypto as the final settlement and clearing currency, right? So you have to develop all of that. And the other thing that I think, like I think every one of us will be curious about your stories on integrating with Stripe. How did you, I mean, like get the deal, and what were the most important factors that moved the Stripe team to integrate with you and you alone? Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of our guiding principles at Loop is to always listen to our customer. And so when we originally built Loop, of course, there was no integration, but something we kept hearing from our customers is they wanted to be able to accept both fiat and crypto. And not only did they want both, but they wanted it in one place. And most of the time, what we found is customers started with fiat and then thought about crypto. So they were already in Stripe or in Charge. So once we heard this, we explored the Stripe documentation and developed a way to be able to integrate with them. In terms of like working with the Stripe team, I think they're quite open to crypto as a whole. I mean, they have Stripe Connect, which allows for crypto off ramps, and they're a very forward-looking team. And so I think they too want to see crypto sort of more prevalently as a payment rails, but also realize that a team like Loop is probably best positioned to build a product that is really crypto native. That we manage smart contracts, we manage a relay network. It's less about the front end, which is where Stripe is really great at with their subscription management platform, and more about the back end of how do you actually process these things on chain.
Sure. And Could we learn more about, what are your typical customers and their geographic distributions? And
Yeah,
I ask this question because I think payment is really one of the first user cases where blockchain came into realities, and what that is what we believe to be uh, one of the most use case for the blockchain technology as a whole. But throughout the time, we understand that there's lots of difficulties in implementing that. And would love to hear from you that who are the ideal customer for you, and what do you see the challenges out there, and potentially who could become your, next major customers. Yeah.
yeah. So on the subscription side, there's two types of customers we see. They're on both ends of the spectrum. So one is like a very small company that is trying to land their first customer, and that customer might be paying in crypto. And so they come to Loop pretty quickly and just want to be able to spin up a payments page and collect funds immediately. Uh, Oftentimes, actually, these customers maybe have trouble getting a Coinbase Commerce account set up, or even getting a Stripe account set up. They just want to move fast and make money. And so Loop allows them to do that. It takes us 20 minutes to onboard you, Matt, and you can start collecting subscriptions immediately. On the other end of the spectrum is super large crypto tooling companies who have been collecting subscriptions for a while, but are now at a place where it's actually quite burdensome to manually process crypto subscriptions. This is because often what you're doing is you're manually generating an invoice, you send it to your customer, and then you ping them and say, "Did you pay me? Send me the transaction hash so I can find it." And then you have to store that probably in a spreadsheet. And then when your accountants are closing your books, they have to go through the spreadsheet and reconcile all the invoices with the transaction. So essentially, there's not an automatic way to get this transaction metadata. And these companies are looking for automation, and so they come to Loop because not only do we remove that burden of having to invoice every single month, but we also natively give you all of that transaction data so you don't have to track it down. We match the hash with the invoice number, with who the payer was, and everything flows very cleanly into your accounting system. And so those type of companies, it tends to be a longer conversation because they want to double check that we're going to fit into their current system, but it tends to have much more of an impact because of the amount of time that we save them. And then in the overarching theme between both of them is, crypto is global, and a lot of these companies have customers that want to pay in crypto because either their customers earn in crypto, and so they want to spend in the currency that they earn in, or they're in a country that it's difficult to pay in US dollars, right? It could be difficult to use a Stripe checkout page, and in which case it is just faster and easier to settle in crypto. And so the companies that use us are driven by their end customers who are really demanding paying in crypto because of some of the payments issues with traditional rail.
Sure. And we understand that there are some also other payment service provider in the crypto space, and even, the centralized exchange providing payment services, although might be for another purpose, right? And what do you see the competition landscape, and who do you view as your larger competitors, and what are your distinguish competitive advantage over them?
Yeah. So actually, like part of Loop's history is Shane and I at this old company we worked at, we use Coinbase Commerce, and that is probably the most well-known payment solution. And our experience with Coinbase Commerce sort of led us to realize what the world needs is automation. So what Coinbase Commerce at the end of the day really is, it's a nice checkout page. They just show you a wallet, and then they say, "Send me money here." And what that means is every month your customer needs to go back to your website, find the wallet address, and send you money, right? There's not that native automation that exists. And so I would say Coinbase Commerce is probably our biggest competition, but the differentiator between us and them is that Loop actually allows you to have more of a Web2 experience where you automatically charge the customer every month. So, like I said, you can actually have that customer give you an authorization and then charge them. The other thing that Coinbase Commerce doesn't do that we do is we handle what's called the dunning flow. So we send your end customer an email receipt to let them know that the payment went through. We send them an email before the next payment's going to take place. And we say, hey, looks like you have enough money in your wallet. This transaction's going to succeed. Or we'll tell them, hey, it looks like you don't have enough money. Maybe you need to top it up to make sure that the payment goes through. This too is an advantage compared to Web 2, where like a company charges a credit card and then you have a chargeback because it didn't go through because you don't find out till after the fact. But in crypto, we know beforehand because I can see your wallet. So we only charge customers when we know it's going to be successful. And we built tooling around communicating with them, letting them know, this transaction might not go through and you could get canceled. Please take action beforehand. Aside from that, we've seen some other payment providers pop up, but for the most part, what they're all missing is this automation. They maybe allow you to send an invoice, which Loop does as well, but they don't allow the recurring nature, which is the pull.
Sure, that's definitely a very useful feature uh, for everyone, especially for companies. And how about, anything else that's in your mind, or in your roadmaps? What do you think that's the next products that you would love to offer?
Yeah, so I think we've talked a lot about the solutions that Loop has built ourselves, which is the subscriptions and then scheduling payments. But actually, at its core, Loop is a protocol, and so other applications can build on top of Loop. And we have a bunch of integrations that will be announced in the coming months with other payment platforms that really aren't competition. They're more like complements. So there's a few out there that, like I said, like allow you to create an invoice or allow you to receive one-off payments, but they want to enable that automation that Loop is, the best at because that's what we spend all day doing. And so those companies are able to come to Loop and leverage our protocol and leverage our APIs, not necessarily use our front end and provide that experience to their end and so, this too is a very like Web3 thing to do where we have this open protocol that anyone can use. And maybe our company competes on some features, but anyone can use the protocol itself. And, that's sort of the vision of Web3.
Definitely, that sounds exciting. Um, and you mentioned about, like the finalities of crypto payment, right? So you wouldn't have this like chargeback problems. But like on the other hand, definitely chargeback is good in some way that it help protect customer when there is any like sort of like false payments or any incidents happen or any like fraudulence how do you face the critics that how do you respond to the critics that the finalities of the crypto payments might actually offer less security for the customer.
No, so I think this goes back to what I at the beginning where I talked about providing the authorization to the smart contract. So a customer can always just set their authorization to zero, and then when they get that email that lets them know a payment is going to take place, they can increase it to the amount of the payment. So then the company can only charge that amount. But in terms of like fraud, honestly, if someone's going to hack your wallet, like they're just going to take all your money, right? They're not going to subscribe to some to subscribe to Nansen to buy their service, right? So there's actually just like a lot less fraud in crypto in that sense, right? There's other security concerns about someone getting into your wallet, but they're not going to go buy a thing.
That's totally true. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that argument. Yeah,
Good
yeah,
thing.
definitely. Sure. Um, and yeah, again, I mean, like I briefly mentioned this, but yeah, there's definitely lots of challenges out there for crypto payments. But what do you think as the, I mean, like I mean, most I mean, I think the biggest challenge is facing the crypto payments industry as a whole to prevent this max adoptions of crypto payments. I think until today, it is still just a fractions of the total, I mean, payment amount. Although, I mean, like in the meantime, it means that you have a large market ahead, right? But
Yes.
why they're so slow, I mean, adoptions, and yeah, what are the problems that needs to be solved before it becomes, I mean, it was adopted by the max in a
Yeah. Honestly, I think the biggest issue is education, explaining to what the end customer, like explaining that they're actually in control and they have this ability to manage their allowance. And then to companies as well, like showing them how the authorization process works, how the automation works, how it can fit into their system, sort of hand holding them through like how this will go into their accounting book, how that flows into the rest of their system. It's a new paradigm shift for how people have before thought about payments in crypto, and that has been the biggest blocker. I think some of the trends actually that we're seeing in crypto about like companies being unbanked has actually helped the payment space, the crypto payment space, because when it becomes more difficult to operate in fiat, companies naturally will then move to crypto because that's sort of their only choice. And so, in my opinion, like it's also been a timing thing. All of the um, now is the right time because we have tooling, we have enough customers that have earned in crypto that want to spend that crypto. We have companies that have raised money in crypto, and so they also want to spend that. And then you have this pressure on the banking system that has made it more difficult to operate in fiat. And so it has pushed companies back into paying for things via crypto.
yeah, definitely. Um, and one other thing that I recall just now you mentioned is when you started your journey, you know how to raise funds, and you know a lot from your last work experience, right? And we noted that some of the very notable investors like A16Zs are your backers. And could you share some tips with all those founders that I mean, in the fundraising process, and what are all those investors seeing in you as a very, I mean, like distinguished team and projects to be invested in?
Yeah. I think, the tip, or I don't know if this is a tip, but maybe more um, sort of an observation is that like I've been in crypto for 3.5 years before I went to raise money. And during that time, I really built out my crypto network as well as showed that I had expertise in this space and solving this problem. And so, well, actually, maybe the tip that came out of that is, really make sure to position yourself and the person that you're working with as you're the right people to solve this problem. Shane and I, like I said, we've built product together before, which makes us a less risky team to invest in because we know how to work together and there's a track record of us being able to deliver. And that track record didn't have to come from having had a past startup. I mean, we did it at our old company. Um, and then we've both been in the space for a while. And so, I've known the A16Z team and our deal partner for 3.5 years. And you could almost say like that was part of the fundraising process because he got to know me and got to know the way that I see the world and sort of how I work. And it makes it easier to bet on someone. And then I think maybe the last piece of advice is picking a problem that's worth solving. Something we like to say is like, is this a feature or is this a company? Because there's a lot of sort of problems to be solved in the world, but they're more like product features. They're not a big enough market or solving a large enough pain point that it warrants an entire company. And so when we came at this problem of like Coinbase Commerce was terrible to use, we really thought of it from the perspective of, but actually, what's the core problem here, right? It wasn't just the Coinbase Commerce checkout page was terrible and their webhooks like didn't send well. It was this drilling down of actually there's no automation, right? There's no way to schedule a payment, to do a pull, and that is a huge market because it's not just subscriptions, right? It's paying your employees, it's repaying a loan, um, it's dollar cost averaging into an asset. It's really about automating crypto payments at large. And so, yeah, my advice.
Just now, very helpful tips. And yeah, like the other things that I've refrained myself from asking earlier uh, is that I mean, like we all know that there are unfortunately, not many female founders in the crypto space nowadays. It's very excited to see you. It here, and I would love to learn from you from your experience that. What's the trend you are seeing in crypto space because you work in I think like tech, finance, and now what Web3s are things changing all these years across different sectors?
Now, things are definitely changing. When I first got started in crypto, I sometimes was the only woman in a room. And now, I mean, 20 or 30% of the room can be women. And so it's definitely trending upward. Um, my sort of view about getting more women into tech, into startups in general, is I think, especially at startups more than elsewhere, people pull from their networks, right? Like we started a company and you need to hire that first engineer and you think, who do I know, right? Who can I convince to come work with me? And that's someone from your network. And I think often, or too often, people's network tends to look like them. And so if the industry begins as, a bunch of people that look a certain way and they're pulling in from their network that also looks like them, it's sort of natural that it grows to be dominated by that one demographic. And so, there's sort of two things here. One is like try to have a network that doesn't just look like you, that looks like other people. But the second thing is as you have different types of people into crypto, like I think it'll snowball in a positive direction. So now that there are more women, like I think we'll just continue to see more and more women as like we convince our friends who often tend to also be women to join the industry, sort of can be a face that is, you know, um, not just a bunch of bros, but like, smart people who are building and have diverse perspectives. And so I'm very optimistic about, the future of crypto and its ability to have a diverse set of actors.
Yeah, but why? Why is that? Do you think that in crypto space, women could have more chance than the than other industries? Is there any uniqueness in this industry that you think could provide more opportunities for women?
Oh, than other areas? Yeah. I think, okay, two things I think are sort of working against crypto, but are the reason you should join crypto. One is obviously crypto is tech, and it really began with people who were studying CS, so lots of academics and lots of computer programmers. And unfortunately, that tends not to be a lot of women. And so from its beginning, it didn't have a lot of women because that's not who's studying computer science in school, which is sort of unfortunate and wish they would join the space. But the second thing is, it's pretty risky to join not just a new industry, but a startup. And I think minority groups tend to be more risk averse, especially in choosing what their career path is. And the downside of that is like risk taking is actually how you build a bunch of wealth, right? Bigger the risk, bigger the reward. And so my plea would be there's actually a ton of opportunity here for everyone, not just women, but any individual that is able to join a startup is giving themselves a lottery ticket, the potential for uh, fast upside. And so my sort of plea to enter crypto is I actually think the industry is less risky than it perceives. It's here to stay. Like you can't shut down this technology. It is global. It is bigger than the United States. There is a lot of capital in it, and it's solving a real pain point. And so I think it's actually a stable industry to be in that sense. And it's still quite new. And so I think that risk reward for this industry is the risk you're taking is actually a lot smaller than the reward that can be earned um, because of the fact there aren't that many people in the industry, you can become an expert fast. And so just like I did, you can take that first job, you can build a network, understand the problem space better, and use that to get an even better job than you could in um, a more mature industry that probably has a lot more players who have been building expertise for a lot longer, and there could just be less opportunities to really have outside returns.
Yeah, I love the risk reward analysis because think about it. Yes, there are lots of capital in the industries, and chances that you are not getting paid much lower than any other industry, right? And then, but the upside is unlimited, given that this is an uprising and new industry. So, yeah, thanks for the encouragement. Yeah, I think yeah, people's interested in crypto should definitely give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before let you go, I mean, would love to hear about your view in the future of the world. And we know that there's lots of technology change recently. I mean, AI and biotech, everything, and what the world will look like for you in 10 years, and how does blockchain payment fit into this? I mean, large narratives and the changing world. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely within 10 years, I do believe crypto payments will be much more ubiquitous to the point that you shouldn't know you're paying with crypto. Just like you don't have any idea that you're using ACH rails or Visa rails or how your credit card works when you go and tap it or check out online. I think within 10 years, that'll be the same for crypto. You may not know that under the hood, what is moving the money from you in the US booking an Airbnb in the Philippines is USDC rails. Um, I think that is a future that we're definitely working towards and is quite possible as people begin to build toolings that makes using wallets easier, that makes managing bridging to other chains easier, that is decreasing gas fees. And we're definitely trending in that direction. So my bet would be in 10 years, most payments are happening in crypto or on a blockchain, and you don't even know
That sounds exciting.
that.
Thanks a lot for your time and your insights.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to be here.
Thanks for listening to the FutureX podcast. Subscribe on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this episode.